So test tomorrow, it's going to be on 9-2, 9-3, 10-3, and factorials. So looking at the first section, we have to state if each sequence is arithmetic, geometric, or neither. So arithmetic means what? We're adding. Geometric is multiply, and then neither would just be if we're not adding or multiplying by the same number. So looking at number 1, am I adding or multiplying the same number to get from one number to the next? Neither. For number 2, am I adding or multiplying to get from one number to the next? Adding what? -8. So I'm technically subtracting or adding -8. So what would this be? Arithmetic. For number 3, am I adding or multiplying to get from one number to the next? I'm adding. Adding what? 10. So my common difference is 10. And what would this be? Arithmetic or geometric? Arithmetic. And for 4? 4 would be neither. We're not adding or multiplying by the same thing. Okay. For the next ones, we have to find the common difference, the rule, which is the formula, and the given term of the arithmetic sequence. So it tells us that it's an arithmetic sequence, but if it didn't tell us, we know that if it says common difference, that goes with arithmetic. So our formula is what?
equals a plus parentheses minus 1 and b.
Perfect. And then we have to find a, which is our first term. N is what? The number that it asks for, and D is the difference, the common difference. So for number 5, let's start with we can start by finding our common difference. So what's our common difference? What am I adding to get from one number to the next? 9. So then let's plug it in. I have a sub n is equal to, what's the first term? 36 plus n minus 1 times 9. So that would be our formula. And then what do I need to plug into n to find the 21st term? I plug in 21. So I have 36 plus 21 minus 1 times 9. What do we get? So our 21st term is 216. So if it asks for the common difference, that's our answer. The formula is this guy, and then that is when we plug in 21. So 3 different answers here. Any questions? All right, let's take a look at number 7. Start with our common difference. What am I adding to get from one number to the next? I'm adding 5. So my common difference would be 5. So then my formula, I start with the first term, which is what? -25 plus n minus 1 times d, which is 5. And then what term is it asking for? 30. So I'm going to plug 30 in for n. So -25 plus 30 minus 1 times 5. So let me just put this into our calculator. Don't forget your calculator for the test tomorrow. So we have 29 times 5 minus 25. What'd you guys get? 120. Perfect. So that's one answer. There's our formula, and that's the 30th term. Do you guys have any questions here? Then n minus 1 times d, which what's d? 6. So then what term does it ask for? The 20th. So I'm going to plug 20 into n. So I have negative 25 plus 20 minus 1 times 6, and then we plug all of this into the calculator. So it'll be 19 times 6 minus 25. So what do you get for your 20th term?
89.
Awesome, 89. So that's one answer, there's another one, and then that's our common difference. So for number 9, we have to find the common ratio, the rule, which is our formula, and the given term of the geometric sequence. So what's our formula for a geometric sequence? A sub n is equal to a times r to the power of n minus 1. So again, we need our first term, our common ratio, and the term that we're finding. So let's start with our common ratio. What am I multiplying to get from one number to the next? Multiplying 3. So our common ratio is 3. Then for our formula, what's our first term? 4. So 4 times 3 to the power of n minus 1. And then it asks us for the 9th term. So what am I plugging into n? 9. And then we plug this into our calculator. So I have 3 to the 8th power times 4. So 26,244. Anybody get this as the answer?
Can you use the bottom and see it?
Yes. Any questions on this one? All right, 11, we're doing the same thing. What am I multiplying to get from one number to the next? What am I multiplying? Negative 2. So our ratio is negative 2. And then for our formula, what's our first term? 2. So I have 2 times negative 2 to the power of n minus 1. And then what term is it asking for? The 11th term. So I'm going to plug in 11 for n. So I have 2 times negative 2 to the power of 11 minus 1. So it's negative 2 to the 10th power. When you plug it into your calculator, make sure you use parentheses. So parentheses, negative 2, then you would close the parenthesis, and then to the 10th power. And then multiply that times 2. This gives us 2,048. Also, I've noticed a lot of people, they'll put it in the calculator and get like an error. Make sure you're using the negative button and not the subtract button. Those are two different things. So if you do times and then minus, it'll tell you that's an error. But you think in your head that you're doing times a negative. So the negative button and the minus are two different things in the calculator. All right, let's take a look at 13. When you were 3, this is a question from the quiz. When you were 3, you had 8 action figures. Every year after, you added 3 more action figures to your collection. How many action figures did you have in your collection when you were 9 years old? So when I was 3 years old, I had how many action figures? 8. And every year I add 3 more. So how many action figures would I have when I'm 4 years old? 11. How many would I have when I'm 5? 14, because we're just adding 3. What about when I'm 6 years old? 17. What about when I'm 7? Oops, this should be 17, sorry. And this should be 20, because I just add 3. What about when I'm 8? 23. And then how many do I have when I'm 9? 26. So that's our answer. So just be careful, like what age you start or like what shelf you start on, because I think the other one was like, I don't know, there was one on the quiz that was like you're walking. So just be careful of where you start and like what you're adding each time or what you have to multiply each time.
All right.
So for our geometric, this is our equation where A is the first term, R is our common ratio, so that's what we're multiplying to get from one number to the next, and N is the number of term that we're looking for. All right, so for number 10, what am I multiplying to get from one number to the next? -4. And then when we plug that into our equation, what's the first term?
3.
So 3 times -4 to the power of n minus 1. And then what am I going to plug in for n? 10, because it asked me for the 10th term. Bye.
Bye.
So for the 10th term, we just plug this into our calculator. If you have a negative number that you're taking the exponent of, make sure you put it in parentheses. So -4 in parentheses to the 9th power times 3. So we get -786,432.
So it's negative, you put in parentheses in the calculator?
Yes. It could mess up the sign of your answer. So another way you could check is looking at the terms. Like this is our first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So the even terms are going to be negative. So if we're looking for the 10th term, you know that your answer is negative. So you can check it that way too. All right, let's look at number 12. What number am I multiplying to get from one number to the next? Awesome. So R is -2. So for our equation, we start with the first term, which is -2, times our ratio, which is, again, -2, to the power of n minus 1. So a to the 12th power, a sub 12, we're looking for the 12th term, is equal to -2 times -2 to the power of 12 minus 1. So I'm going to do -2 to the 11th power times -2. So our 12th term is 4,096. All right, next page. We have to write the standard form equation of each circle. So our formula of a circle is x minus h squared. Don't forget that's squared. Plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So for number 14, what's our center? -4, -1. So when I plug that in, it'll be x plus 4 squared plus y plus 1 squared. We always change the signs when we plug it in for the center. Yes?
On the test, do we have to write all of that?
You don't have to, but I'm not going to be able to give you credit for the work if you get it wrong, if you don't show your work. All right, our radius is what? 1. Be careful here, because even though it looks like 2 tick marks, we're going from -4 to -3. So our radius is 1. So when we plug it in, we have to do 1 squared. And what's 1 squared? 1. So this is our equation of the circle. Any questions there? Let's do 15. So what's our center here? It would be 2, 0. So when I plug it in, I start with x, and what comes next? X minus 2 squared plus y squared. Awesome. That y doesn't get anything added to it because our y is 0. And what's my radius?
2. Wait, no. It's 4.
My radius would be 4, so when I plug it into the equation, it's r squared. So what's 4 squared? 16. So for 18, we have to identify the center, the radius, and then sketch the graph. So what's our center here? Perfect. It'll be 3, 2. Don't forget, we have to change the sign. So positive 3 and positive 2. So we can graph that. We go to the right 3 and up 2. There's our center. What's our radius? Awesome. We just take the square root of what it's equal to. And what's the square root of 9? 3. So we go to the right 3. We go up 3, to the left 3, and down 3. And then just draw a circle. A lot of people on the homework, their shapes looked like a diamond. Remember, you're drawing a circle. If you draw a shape like this and just connect the dots with straight lines, it'll be wrong. You're drawing a circle. Just make sure it's a circle. What is my center for 19?
1, 0.
Awesome. Positive 1, 0. When we're not adding anything to an x or y, it's 0. So I go to the right 1 and stay on 0. And then what's my radius? Radius would be 2. We just take the square root of what it's equal to. So I go to the right 2, up 2, to the left 2, and down 2. And draw a circle. So for 16 and 17, we have to come up with the equation. So our equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So we just have to figure out what our center is and plug those in to h and k, and then we find out what our radius is and plug that into r. So for number 16, what's my center? -2, -1. So when I plug that into my equation, it'll be x, what comes next? Plus 2, because we changed the sign. Plus y, what comes next? Plus 1 squared is equal to, well, let's see, what's our radius? We go 1, 2. So our radius is 2. So when we plug it into the equation, we square it. So what's 2 squared? Awesome. So don't forget, your parentheses are squared. It's kind of a common mistake. People will just put the parentheses but forget to square. So the parentheses need that little squared up top. Any questions here? Because looking at the axis, the axis goes by 2. So this is a half, -1. 1 1/2, -2. So we would have to go 1, 2. So we count based on what the axis tells us. So for 17, what's my center?
-2, -1.
-2, -1. So I have x. What comes next?
Plus 2.
Plus 2 squared plus y. Plus 1 squared is equal to, let's see, what's our radius here? We go 1, 2, 3, 4. So if our radius is 4, what's going to go into the equation? 16, because it'll be 4 squared. So here our axis goes by 1, so we just count how many boxes. Let's take a look at the factorials. So 5 factorial, what does that mean? So 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So when we put all of this in the calculator, what do we get? 120. Awesome. So for these, again, if you don't want to write it out, that's fine. But if you put it in the calculator wrong and your answer is wrong, then I won't be able to give you credit for your work. So show your work. For number 23, I have 7 factorial, which is 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And 2 factorial is 2 times 1. So is there anything I can cancel out? The 2 and the 1. So then I just have to put 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 in my calculator. So 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3. What do we get? 2,520. Awesome. (24). I have 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And then on the bottom, I have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 2, 1. So I can cross out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So on the top, I have 9 times 8, which is 72. On the bottom, I have 2 times 1, which is 2. And then all I have to do is divide 72 divided by 2. What do we get? 36. Awesome. And then the last one, I have 4, 3, 2, 1. And what's 1 factorial? 1. It's just 1. So the 1s would cancel. So I have 4 times 3 times 2. 24. So for 20 and 21, we have to identify the center, the radius, and graph. So for 20, what's our center? For 20.
So is that after the switch version, so we did -4?
Yeah, -4, -1. You always switch the signs. So we go to the left to -4 and down to -1. What's our radius here?
1.
1. We would just take the square root of whatever it's equal to, and the square root of 1 is 1. So how would I draw the radius? Go 1 up, 1 to the right, 1 left, and 1 down. And then we draw our circle. So it looks like that. Any questions? So 21. What's our center here? 2, 2. So we go to the right 2 and up 2 and put a point. What's our radius here? 3. It's the square root of 9, which is 3. So how would I do the radius of 3? Up 3, right 3, left 3, down 3. And then we draw a circle. Be careful. I noticed on a lot of people's homework, they connected the dots with straight lines like this. That would be a square. That is not a circle. You are graphing a circle. So if you put a square on your work on the test, it would be wrong. Your pictures need to look like circles. Don't just connect the dots with straight lines. It has to be a circle.